Well, the hardest story I'm going to share today is very deeply personal and probably why I really didn't want to talk and do this in public. But I'm really grateful because I want the world to know how great of a God we have. I truly do. But I shared a little bit about his journey when he was a teenager and he went missing. There's usually events that happen before, and then it starts to be a cataclysmic domino effect. And it was a beautiful story when God restored him back to our family. And in between that time frame, he lost his dad, and it was a really tough time. And he became a fireman because he couldn't save his dad, he couldn't resuscitate him, and so he was going to save the world. So he became a fireman. And we were so proud. I had a great relationship with that version of my son. We all have different versions in our relationships. But anyhow, he had so many pains and struggles. Let's just say he hadn't rectified it in his heart. And so he struggled every anniversary on his dad's death. And then it came to us after 18 years, he'd been working on the truck. He literally could get off and he got a promotion and he became a fire inspector. And I think he was an investigator at the same time. So there had been pauses in our relationship when things would be disrupted in his heart that he would back away. He's a grown man, that does happen. And so anyhow, it was interesting that it had been a period of time and I had been praying over some things and asking God, hey, what's the problem here? Like, what are we doing? What are you doing? And how am I going to work with you on this? So I want to say the early fall, I got a phone call or a text from him. Hey, Mom, I need to talk to you. And I was like, yay, God's answering my prayers, right? And so we had this great reunification, and it was just so beautiful that, the power of God, when he brings and melds something together, it's like nothing has ever happened. And that was what happened. He's like, nothing ever happened, Mom, this is crazy. I said, that's just the power of love, the power of forgiveness, because nothing did happen. Hurts and wounds cause us to pick up offense and blame it on God or blame it on other people. And it was so good to see the hand of God. And the truth is, I wasn't concerned because I knew God had been faithful. His whole life has been my teacher. So anyway, it was going really well. He's all excited. He got off and he called me on my birthday and said, hey, I'm going on vacation. It's just been crazy. When I get back, they want to come over and yada, yada. And the phone dropped, and then I didn't hear from him until I got a phone call. And so it was not even 5 days later, I think it was, I got a telephone call. The chief, the fire department, called me with his wife and said that he's very sorry, but Jeremy's gone. And that was the hardest thing I think I heard. I'm so grateful for the many years before that laid this foundation of knowing who God was, because I think that would have taken me out completely. I truly do. But that was my greatest loss. And to me, there's no greater loss this side of heaven than losing your child. And I've lost parents. I lost a 5.5-month-old little girl. I've lost a lot. And I'm certainly not measuring anybody's pain whatsoever. But for me, that was the hardest thing I think I've ever lived through. He was a decorated fireman. He laid down his life on the front lines in the CARR Fire in Redding, California in 2018. And that day, literally a piece of my heart died. It just died. Like I said, I had built this relationship, so I was very comfortable. I didn't have questions. I didn't have blame shifting. I had come to this solid place of knowing the character of God and who he is. And the truth is, he didn't take my son. I knew he doesn't need him in heaven. He's not turning into an angel. No disrespect to anybody, but I knew that he didn't need my son. He gave his. Why would he take mine? And that's really a mother's heart. Like when that happens, like, this is not fair. And so physically, emotionally, I was confident, and I just wept. I got up in the morning and I would cry for probably 2 or 3 hours. And Raymond was amazing. He would just touch. I worked in organ donation for a period of time in nursing, and that's when God taught me how that compassion and love doesn't have to have words. And so when he would just reach over and put his hand on me, I would just let it out and let it feel and let it come out. And I was grateful that I had the opportunity. I could do that. I didn't have to get up and go to work the next morning like so many other people have to struggle with. I had developed trauma brain in the middle of it. My heart was going crazy. I don't have cardiac issues. I don't have physiological problems like that. I've been pretty healthy most of my life, but I had anxiety. I couldn't breathe. I had chest pain. I had cardiac irregularities. I was a cardiac nurse too. Like, what? This isn't happening. But when I was still seeing clients, that we had started that little trauma center at our church hub there, and we were doing that ministry. And it was just hard to be so forgetful because I'm on top target. I like to know where I'm going. I like to know what I'm doing. The trauma brain really set me back for a minute. However, I think the hardest part was people's reactions. The reactions of people who don't know what to say, try to be comforting, and then they say the darndest of things, and then you find yourself taking care of their emotions. That probably was the hardest part for me. So I'd rather isolate, which a lot of us do, is to stay back. They just say stupid things like, my dog died, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm so grateful for you. But I thank the Lord because he had taught me how to live in the spirit so I could function in a compassionate way. It just left no room for me to deal with me all the time. There was always somebody needing something. Like I said, Raymond was beautiful in the transition. And then we transitioned from Reno, where we were, to Texas. And we had a lot of shifting parts, a lot of moving parts. And I was coming back home to just rest and recuperate. But I did like everyone else. I stayed busy. I made sure I was doing something, even the transitions after his death. I was doing everything. I was going to all the services and the things that were celebrating him for the whole year. They're really good at that. But it was just trying to distract myself from, I didn't know what was brewing and I needed to let it out. And the funniest thing was I set my office up and I got this box down of all his baby things. Okay, this is like really vulnerable. And I pull all his baby things down, his little size 5 boots, and then his name on his little belt, because he used to go to the farm with his dad all the time. He's a little cowboy. And I put it all up in my office. And I remember when we got our home in Texas and we moved in, I remember the Lord saying to me very carefully, how long has it been since you brought that out? And I was like, what? And he's like, how long has it been? And I said, like 38 years. And so he just was reminding me that you can't bring him back. And when I camp there, that my effects and grief become exacerbated. And so it was a beautiful way how he would walk me through it, and he would cover my heart. But he's like, if you want this, then we can do this. And he just was so personal to me that my coping would go from physical problems to break down and cry. And then when I literally had to pack it all up, it took me 2 weeks to get it off the counter in the kitchen. Because I was like, okay, because I felt like I was losing tie with my son. But he's like, he's always with you, Deborah. He's applauding you on. And so that was kind of a mixed message in relationship to the effects of trauma. But I wanted to weave in how the Lord helped me through that because he does, because he cares.